So there's been an outbreak of Hantavirus on a cruise ship, and that's led to the death of some passengers. So what do we know about this virus?
Something strange is spreading online right now, and it's not a virus. It's a story, a narrative, a theory that has exploded across social media in the last few weeks, connecting dots between a cruise ship, a billionaire, a military research program, and a global health scare. Millions of people are watching videos, reading threads, and sharing posts asking the same question. Is everything we're being told actually true? Now, before you click away thinking this is just another conspiracy video, stop, because this isn't that. What we're doing today is something different. We're going to look at why this narrative caught fire online, what psychological mechanisms make people believe it, what parts are based on real events, and what parts are pure internet mythology. Because here's the thing, understanding how a story spreads is far more interesting than the story itself. And by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly how a real virus, a real billionaire, and real internet anxiety got mixed together into one of the most viral conspiracy narratives of the year. Stay with me, because the answer is not what you think. Let's start where this all began. A cruise ship, the MV Hantavirus. Media outlets started covering reports of a potential hantavirus scare aboard the vessel, and almost immediately, something weird happened. Two completely different stories emerged. One passenger went online, posting emotional videos describing fear, panic, and chaos. The story spread fast. News channels picked it up. Social media exploded. But then, almost at the same time, another passenger from the same ship started giving interviews, and this person said something completely different. They described a calm situation, controlled, not nearly as dramatic as the media was making it seem. Now here's where the internet did what the internet does best. People started asking, why are these stories so different? And that question, that small, reasonable, legitimate question, became the spark. Online communities started digging. They started connecting the ship to biotech investors, to vaccine organizations, to defense contracts. Most of these connections were indirect. Many were circumstantial. Some were completely unrelated. But on the internet, coincidence stacking is a superpower. When you take 10 unrelated facts and put them in a list, they start to look like evidence, even when they aren't. And that is exactly what happened here. Now here's something I want you to keep in mind, because it's going to matter later in this video. The online reaction to the ship wasn't really about the ship. It was about something much bigger, something that had been building for years. We'll get to that. But first, let's talk about the man who became the face of all of this. If you spend any time in online conspiracy spaces, there is one name that shows up in almost every health-related narrative: Bill Gates. And to understand why, you have to go back a few years. Long before COVID-19, Bill Gates was giving public speeches and interviews warning the world about pandemic preparedness. He said clearly and repeatedly that humanity was not ready for a major viral outbreak. At the time, most people shrugged. After COVID happened, those old clips resurfaced, and millions of people online started asking the same question: how did he know? Now, the rational explanation is straightforward. Gates funds global health initiatives through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. His organization works with infectious disease researchers, epidemiologists, and public health experts around the world. Warning about pandemic risk was part of that work. But online, rational explanations often lose to emotionally satisfying ones, because the alternative narrative is much more gripping. What if he didn't just predict it? What if he knew because he was involved? That question, with zero verified evidence behind it, became the engine of an entire universe of online theories. Online communities began circulating old speeches, connecting them to GAVI, to the WHO, to DARPA, to Moderna, to vaccine patents, building an enormous web of suggestion. And once a public figure becomes the designated villain of an internet narrative, something fascinating happens psychologically. Every new event gets filtered through that lens. New outbreak? Must be connected to him. New vaccine? He must benefit. New health scare? His name goes in the thread. It's not logic. It's pattern recognition on overdrive. And here's the part that most people miss entirely. The reason these theories feel convincing isn't because they have strong evidence. It's because they have perfect structure. We'll break that down right now. Here's something that might surprise you. Most viral conspiracy theories online follow the exact same formula, almost word for word, step by step. And once you see it, you'll recognize it everywhere. Step 1. A real event happens. It doesn't have to be dramatic. A cruise ship with sick passengers, a new virus in the news, a statistic nobody expected. Step 2. Someone starts asking questions. And this part is actually healthy. Skepticism is good. Questioning official narratives is a legitimate intellectual exercise. Step 3. Old clips, patents, research papers, and headlines get pulled together into what looks like an evidence thread. This is where things get interesting, because each individual piece might be real, a real patent, a real speech, a real funding document, but putting real things together doesn't automatically create a real connection between them. Step 4. Emotional investment locks in the narrative. Once someone emotionally connects to the story, once they feel like they've discovered something hidden, confirmation bias takes over completely. From that point forward, every new piece of information gets interpreted as more proof. Headlines that seem unrelated get added to the thread. Coincidences become evidence. Circumstantial connections become smoking guns. The Hantavirus theories online followed this exact formula. Old pandemic speeches, vaccine research funding, military biodefense programs, biotech patents, presented together, framed as a unified conspiracy. But there's a critical distinction that gets lost in that process. The difference between these things exist, and these things prove a coordinated criminal conspiracy is enormous. That gap, that enormous logical gap, is where most viral conspiracy narratives live. Now, let's talk about the one ingredient that makes these theories spread faster than anything else. Of all the tools in the viral conspiracy toolkit, one is more powerful than any other: the whistleblower. In the Hantavirus narrative online, videos and posts began circulating claiming that a former insider, someone allegedly connected to a major health organization, had come forward to reveal hidden biolab operations and secret population control programs. None of these claims were independently verified. No mainstream journalist, no government investigation, no credible source confirmed them. But it didn't matter, because emotionally, the whistleblower story does something that abstract theories cannot. It transforms a vague suspicion into a human drama. Instead of, people online think something suspicious is happening, the narrative becomes, a real person risked their career, their safety, and their freedom to tell you the truth. That reframing is incredibly powerful. It creates stakes, it creates a protagonist, it creates urgency, and it triggers something deep in human psychology. The feeling that you are one of the few people brave enough to listen. The audience doesn't just believe the theory at that point. They feel morally invested in it. They feel like not sharing it would be a betrayal of the person who risked everything to speak out. And here's the uncomfortable truth about whistleblower content online. Fake whistleblowers are incredibly easy to produce. You don't need credentials. You don't need evidence. You just need a camera, a compelling story, and the right emotional tone. Real whistleblowers go to journalists. They produce documents. They accept scrutiny. Online, viral whistleblowers usually do none of those things, but by the time the audience has emotionally committed, it doesn't matter anymore. So now we have the real event, the villain, the formula, and the whistleblower. There's one more ingredient, and it might be the most important one of all. Here's something your brain does automatically, constantly, without you even realizing it. It searches for patterns. Every single second of every single day, your brain is scanning your environment, connecting dots, building narratives, and asking, what does this mean? This is not a flaw. This is actually one of the most extraordinary features of human intelligence. For most of human history, this ability kept us alive. Spotting patterns in nature meant survival. But in the modern information environment, where we are bombarded with thousands of data points every single day, this same mechanism creates a serious problem. We find patterns in things that have no pattern. Psychologists call this apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. And conspiracy narratives are perfectly engineered to exploit it. They give your pattern recognition system exactly what it craves: a hidden enemy, a clear motive, a logical chain of cause and effect, even when that chain is built entirely out of coincidences. Add to this something researchers call the proportionality bias, the deeply human instinct that says big events must have big causes: a global pandemic, thousands of deaths, economies collapsing. Something that large can't just be an accident. It must have been planned, orchestrated, controlled. The alternative, that catastrophic things can happen due to random chance, bad luck, or systemic failures, is deeply unsatisfying to our brains. We are wired to prefer a villain over a vacuum. And once you understand that, conspiracy narratives stop being mysterious. They start being completely predictable. Now here's where we need to slow down, because dismissing everyone who shares these theories as irrational, gullible, or paranoid would be a mistake, a serious one, because the distrust driving these narratives is real. It didn't come from nowhere. Think about what has happened in the last 2 decades. Governments lied about weapons of mass destruction. Major financial institutions crashed the global economy and faced almost no consequences. Pharmaceutical companies suppressed data on dangerous drugs. Social media platforms manipulated feeds and sold private data. Intelligence agencies ran surveillance programs on their own citizens. These are not conspiracy theories. These are documented, verified, reported facts. So, when a new health scare emerges and institutions say, "Trust us," millions of people think about that history, and they hesitate. That hesitation is not irrational. In many ways, it's a completely reasonable response to a long track record of institutional deception. The problem is what fills the void when trust breaks down. When official channels lose credibility, people don't stop searching for answers. They find alternative sources. And those alternative sources are not always honest, they are not always accurate, and sometimes they are deliberately designed to exploit exactly this kind of distrust. The Hantavirus narrative online didn't spread because millions of people are stupid. It spread because millions of people are skeptical. And in a world where both things can be true at the same time, where institutions have lied, and where online theories are also misleading, navigating what's real has become one of the most difficult challenges of our time. Let's separate what's real from what's speculation, because not everything online is wrong, and not everything official is right. Here is what is verifiably true. Hantavirus is a real virus. It exists. It has caused documented outbreaks. It is studied by legitimate researchers in controlled laboratory environments around the world. Governments and military organizations do fund infectious disease research. This includes biodefense programs. These programs are real, documented, and publicly reported, even when the details are classified. Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation do fund global health initiatives on a massive scale. This includes vaccine development, pandemic preparedness, and public health infrastructure in developing countries. Pharmaceutical companies do hold patents on viral research and vaccine technology. This is how pharmaceutical development works. These things are all true. Here is what remains unverified online: that any individual or organization deliberately engineered or released hantavirus, that any outbreak was intentionally orchestrated for financial or political gain, that the media coverage of the cruise ship incident was part of a coordinated disinformation campaign. These claims circulated widely online. They generated millions of views and thousands of shares. But viral reach is not evidence. And at the time of this video, no credible, independently verified source has produced evidence supporting these specific claims. That distinction matters. Asking questions is healthy. Treating unverified claims as established fact is something different. We've spent this entire video unpacking one narrative, but the narrative itself is almost beside the point, because what this story really reveals is something much larger. We are living through a global crisis of institutional trust. And that crisis did not begin with the hantavirus theories. It did not begin with COVID-19. It has been building for decades. What happens when people no longer trust governments? They look elsewhere. What happens when they don't trust mainstream media? They find alternative voices. What happens when they don't trust science? They build their own frameworks. And in that environment, the most emotionally satisfying narrative, not the most accurate one, tends to win. The speed at which these theories spread is not a reflection of people's intelligence. It is a reflection of the information environment we have all been placed inside. An environment deliberately engineered to maximize engagement, which means maximizing outrage, fear, and emotional activation. Every platform that profits from attention has a structural incentive to push content that provokes the strongest reaction. Conspiracy theories provoke extremely strong reactions, so the algorithm rewards them. This is not a conspiracy, this is business logic, and understanding it is the first step toward navigating it. Here's where I want to leave you, not with a definitive verdict, not with a clean answer, not with a list of things to believe or disbelieve, but with a question. When you encounter a story online, whether it confirms your existing beliefs or challenges them, what process do you use to evaluate it? Because the single most powerful tool you have in today's information environment is not access to better sources. It's the habit of asking, what would it take to prove this wrong? Strong theories survive that question. They have verifiable evidence. They hold up under scrutiny. They update when new information arrives. Weak theories don't survive it. They rely on emotional energy instead of evidence. They get stronger when challenged instead of more precise. They treat every counter-argument as more proof of the conspiracy. That test alone will filter out an enormous amount of the noise. The hantavirus narrative online tapped into something real. Genuine distrust of genuine institutions that have genuinely broken trust. But it channeled that energy into something unverified, unsubstantiated, and in some cases, deliberately constructed to go viral rather than to illuminate truth. The distrust is legitimate. The specific claims? Those deserve a much higher standard of evidence before we accept them as truth. Because in a world where attention is the most valuable currency, where views translate directly into money and power, you should always ask, who benefits from me believing this? And then, what is the actual evidence? That's not cynicism. That's not blind trust in institutions either. That's just critical thinking applied consistently to everyone, including the people telling you not to trust anyone.